first question is, what advice would you give to your past self, especially considering the IB?
Um, it was I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself when I was first in the IB, just because I had done really well academically for the last few years prior. And now that I was being thrown into this system that was extremely rigorous and challenging, I felt as if I was getting less smart just because I wasn't doing as well. But I realized over time that I was just putting so much pressure on myself, and I needed to just navigate the IB system and just trust the process and know that it's going to get better, and that I just have to get used to it. I think that's a huge part of being able to do well, is just knowing how it works. And so when you're first thrusted into it, it can be really hard to be able to see everything from a bird's eye view. But over time, it cleared up, and I realized that pressure was so unnecessary and unhealthy.
Yeah, that's super helpful and something that IB students should definitely keep in mind. Thank you for sharing. And then, what were your expectations of the IB and how different were they from the actual program?
Okay, so I I took the middle years program prior to the IB. It's called the MYP. It's like the IB deems it as like a pre-IB program, but I don't know how much it really helped me understand the real IB. And I literally thought it was going to be similar to the middle years program, meaning there was going to be lots of coursework. We would write essays, do presentations, just like the MYP, and that the exams were sort of like an afterthought. That was not true. I then realized that all of my classes, the sole purpose of them was just to really prepare for those exams and learn new things, obviously. But that was the main goal, was to prepare for exams and internal assessments. That was a huge throw off, because I really didn't realize that until I got into it.
Yeah. And then, what were some of your biggest challenges or struggles when you were doing the IB?
I guess at first I really had no idea what was going on, as I said before, just because it was so new to me. And I had done a completely different system before. Um, and I guess it was just having to keep up with the rigor all of a sudden, having to study and making sure that I was preparing long term for review for 2 years worth of content. I think that's the hardest part, the fact that it's 2 years. It's not 1 year where you can suddenly drop the classes and take new ones, and like the AP, for example. This is a very enduring program. You have to maintain long-term strategies, and when you're thrown into it, sometimes it can be really hard to prepare for that. So I guess that was my biggest challenge, was having to just maintain my focus for 2 years and get through it.
Yeah. And then, how did you overcome those challenges of getting used to the rigor and getting used to thinking of the IB as long term?
So I started just step by step every day, just trying to learn something new about the program in every class I took. Just trying to get something new out of it, and really just taking one step at a time. So, for example, in biology, it was really overwhelming because I didn't realize we had to know everything for semester one for the last semester. So I started doing flashcards, and that was a study tip that I just started to do almost every single day. I wrote my flashcards every single day, and over time they accumulated, and now I had this huge stack of flashcards through Quizlet that I could use to review. So just every single day, just trying to do something better that would make it easier in the long run.
Nice. And then, how were the testing or IA schedules in your school like, and how did you feel about them?
So we did all of our IAs and IOs in year 2, just because that's how our school worked. I did do a little bit of research about what topics I wanted to investigate the summer before, but it was definitely stressful just because everything was happening at the same time. I was doing all my I's at the same time. I would suggest, though, to students, regardless of the scheduling system, to just research the IAs and what they're all about ahead of time, not necessarily doing them ahead of time, but just being more familiar with them and researching potential topics they enjoy, because I think that really gives you enough context to approach the IAs in an efficient way. But on the bright side, in terms of my IA schedule, it did allow us to have a lot of mock IAs and mock IOs at the beginning of year one. So I had a lot of English IOs, stuff like that. And that gave me the chance to prepare really well, so I could approach it with more ease.
Yeah, nice. And then did you ever struggle with CAS during your IB experience, and how did you deal with that?
So fortunately for me, I think CAS was kind of second nature, just because I had a lot of passions I was pursuing already. I'm a musician. I love to write music, and that was something I really wanted to integrate into my CAS. So I wrote a lot of music. I did a music journal, but I also wanted to use my music to help others and just sort of integrate that with a service component. So I ended up joining a service club, doing a leadership position there, and I organized a fundraiser, a music concert fundraiser with them. I also organized my own music concert fundraiser somewhere else. I was quite active in my Jewish organization here called BBYO. So during coronavirus, I led a lot of different events internationally and nationally. So that was really cool. So overall, I think I was fortunate that CAS was sort of second nature, just because I was already passionate about certain things. But I guess for a student who might not be, that's okay too. It's okay to have to navigate a little bit and take your time to find something that you enjoy.
Cool. And then lastly, do you have any words for pre-IB students or any pieces of advice you'd like to give?
I would say cherish the fact that you're going to get educated. I know that we tend to make the IB sound like death, and we tend to demonize it and make memes about it and make it sound just unnecessarily terrible. But I was reading this book over the summer called Unequal City, which talked about how sort of the distribution of education between racially stratified cities in the United States. And they talk about the IB as being the best curriculum, the educational curriculum that so many kids wish they could get and are not getting. And that really hit me, and I was like, wow, I need to remember to cherish this program, because I'm getting educated in a way that so many people aren't, and that's a privilege. So if there are times when you wake up in the morning and you just don't want to do it anymore, or you feel like demonizing it, just remember that this is a huge, huge privilege and you're about to learn so much. So cherish that every day.